This is again Dr. Jimmy, of course, and this is also, of course, my History of Halloween Horror Nights 23, What Evil Has Taken Root, from 2013, and this is my history part 12. And this is the same day, it is, by the way, Tuesday, July 19th, 2016, and I'm talking about Havoc Derailed, the first of the original houses. In my previous video I talked a little bit about it, and I just got into the house itself, but I hadn't quite gotten through the first room. So as I was saying before, you're on the train itself, and they've recreated very well the feeling of being on a train. Now, they have lots of sound. It sounds like the train running. You hear the tracks, you hear the rush of that. You have lighting to make it look like if you're on a train, the way the lights go by, you know, feeling of that. You got all of that. They don't have the motion though. They couldn't actually shake the rooms and make you feel like you're on a real train. Unfortunately, they couldn't go that far. They didn't have the budget. This isn't an actual attraction. This isn't like Earthquake or something. No, this is a haunted house, a temporary thing they built in the queue area. So obviously, but they were able, nevertheless, through sound and sight, to create a very good illusion of being on a train. So you're going on through the train cars. In the second train car, of course, you have more activity. More of the soldiers have been killed, the regular soldiers killed by the dogs of war, and they're running, they're loose, they're getting in your face, they're coming after you. It's quite aggressive, quite angry, very exciting. And again, as I said, you go through these areas between the train cars and just those little spaces, and a couple of times there was a secret boo-hole character comes popping out, another dog will come out, you in that space where you're not really expecting him, transition scene, you don't expect something like that as you go from one scene to the other. So that was very effective when that happened sometimes. However, as you got into these scenes and the soldiers are shooting and the dogs are coming after them and after you, and you're sort of caught in the middle, there's another one where all of a sudden there's all sorts of bright lights, strobe lights and mirrors and flashing, a little bit of a shake up and explosive sounds. It's supposed to represent stylistically, I guess, the feeling of being in a train that is wrecking. Perhaps they couldn't create that illusion very effectively, but they tried. And when you went through the next partition, they'd, at least on the opening weekends and some of the later weeks, sometimes when it was working, they had a good thing. They had those wonderful air bladders, you know, those things where the walls are big and they come right up together, and the air is in them, and so you have to squeeze through that little channel like you're being reborn again or something, coming through that, and feels really claustrophobic. And that's the idea of you trying to squeeze your way out of a wrecked train, right? Unfortunately, many times they're deflated, more often than not. So the effect, when it works, it's great, but sometimes it's something they had at the Dungeon of Terror way back at the beginning, and sometimes they do it. They did it at Reflections of Fear, for example. And again, when it's operating, it's wonderful, but so often it's not. That's the sad thing about that effect is, 9 out of 10 times when you go through a house with one of those in it, the damn things are deflated. You just walk through an empty room with black floppy things on either side that aren't doing anything. That's kind of sad, unfortunately. Another drawback there in the house. But after that, oh, this was exciting. You go into an outdoor scene. You're actually still inside, but it looks like you're outside in a forest. And of course, on one of the trees near you is a crow. Another cameo crow that peered through all the houses, as I mentioned before. And you have the actual train cars, and they're all twisted and torn and all over the place. When a train wrecks, it doesn't just tip over in a nice, neat line, a row of cars. It's, one car's like this, another's like that, another's like this, and this, and this, and they're all over the place, and they're all twisted up, and they get ripped up, and, there's blood and guts because the humans in them get torn up too, and big gaping holes. So you're there going through this wreckage, and it's trees. Some of the train cars are kind of caught up in the branches of trees and twisted roots and all that kind of stuff. And as you walk through this area, of course, ducking under bits of metal, you have the dogs of war having escaped and survived the train wreck, running amok with their weapons, machine guns and knives and whatever, shooting, shouting, yelling, getting all agile, mobile, hostile, in your face, out to kill you. Rawr! Hoorah! Yes, dogs of war at their best. And again, the guys and girls who played these characters got really enthusiastic. They worked out a lot, got all really fit, and they all shaved their heads for real. You know, girls too, shave their heads. Some of them, you know, the little thing on the back, the brand, a UPC symbol. Some of them, you know, it's a temporary tattoo or a decal. But some of them were so gung-ho that they actually had the actual tattoo tattooed on the back of their necks. Or back of their heads, you know. I guess they figured, well, it can always grow out, you know, hair will grow over it, but if we want to shave it again and show it off, we can. I was once a dog of war, man, look, see, yeah, all that cool stuff. So they're doing this, they're running all over the place, they're berserk, they're in your face, you're crawling in and out of wreckage, they come from above, they come from below as you go through the next scenes, as you duck in and out of the train, and then finally at the end you go back into the train wreck, and in a big room, and there's more of them in there, and shouting and yelling and screaming and coming at you with guns and knives and all of that. Basically, that's the house. And so it's very exciting, high energy, trying to recapture the feeling of the original house. And of course, after you go through the house is the lovely moment when you scan your card for Legendary Truth, of course. Now, I like the house quite a bit, but maybe it's because, of course, the original Havoc Dogs of War was such a high energy house. You know, it was minimal in sets. It was primarily just the characters, and they were out of their freaking minds in 2010. And this cast did their best, but neither Cast A or Cast B ever hit that level that the original cast in 2010 did. I don't know why. Maybe it's like you couldn't really recreate it so well. Also, you know, it's also like you go through it, the sequel, you know, you have memories of the original and it builds up in your memory, and it may even be better than you imagined it was originally, and it can never quite live up to your expectations. That might have something to do with it, or it just didn't reach that level of energy. So it was a bit disappointing because it wasn't quite as, the impact wasn't there. Maybe it's because of the novelty, and even the neat idea of the train wreck, it didn't quite work as well because of the limitations of budget. They did a wonderful job of creating a train wreck, but you know, it never really was totally believable. As I mentioned before, you don't feel the train moving. The scene with the train wrecked itself was a bit, and of course those bladders you go through, they often didn't work. So that might have been part of it as well. It wasn't a lackluster house, and as I said, I didn't think any of the houses in 2013 were bad houses in any way, shape or form, but some were better than others, and this house is on the lower end of the scale, I'm sorry. As much as I wanted it to be a spectacular house, it wasn't anywhere near as great as the first one. So there you go. I'm not going to say it's meh or mediocre, and I'm certainly not going to act as some internet trolls did, who couldn't resist the word train wreck, of course. Yeah, the house was a train wreck, man. Yeah, typical. Not going to go there, but I will say that the house didn't live up to my hopes and expectations, although it was still alright. And I did like the house. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And, of course, I got to go through it quite a bit, as I said, for various reasons. You know, you do have reasons. Why would you go through a house if you don't like it so much? Why would you go to the house you like best? Well, first, Legendary Truth was going on, and you had to go through houses over and over again to get points. Secondly, you're with people who want to go through that house. And third, you know people who work in the house. You know, and they expect to see you in the house because they know you're going to be out, and they want you to come by so they can scare you. We want to scare Dr. Jimmy tonight, so I feel obligated to try to do all the houses as much as possible. That's why, in case you're wondering. Alright, so that was Havoc Derailed. Now, cocktail, because of course I didn't make a cocktail for that house. Let's find it, bring up my Facebook on my phone, and let's see, go to my page and to my photo albums and find the one for Halloween Horror Nights 23 House Cocktails. There it is. And let's find the right one. And here it is. This was the cocktail. Now, there actually was a cocktail I discovered doing some research called a train wreck, of course. Obvious name, because if you drink it, you feel like you've been wrecked, you know, like a train. That's the idea. And so, what I said was, for Havoc Derailed, a variation on a cocktail known as a train wreck. Gin, 5 kinds of rum, Myers and vanilla, pineapple, banana and coconut cruison, sour and coke. So I made my own version of that with gin and 5 different kinds of rum, the sour mix and Coca-Cola, and it was in a tall plastic glass, as you can see here, on ice. I think there's some sort of garnish, probably orange or something. I can't quite make out what the garnish is, but that was the Havoc Derailed cocktail. Now, I did not make a cocktail for the Dogs of War, the original house, because I didn't start doing that thing until 2011, obviously. So, we got Havoc Derailed done. Let's move on to the 6th house of Halloween Horror Nights 23, and this would be the house located in the Building 79, or the Parade Building as it's commonly called. This was the 5th and final intellectual property house that year. And it was the one people were least interested in, because they were already getting fed up with The Walking Dead. It was that year's Walking Dead house, The Walking Dead No Safe Haven, which was based entirely on the 3rd season of The Walking Dead, which had just finished airing earlier that spring. And as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, did I say the 3rd Walking Dead house? No, it was the 2nd Walking Dead house, yes. They had done Walking Dead 1 year before. But they were already getting fed up, especially in 2013, because there was so much Walking Dead in the streets as well. And that gave some people a negative feeling. And didn't we do this house last year? Why are they bringing Walking Dead back again? Except, of course, it was an entirely different house. Because the first house, Walking Dead Dead Inside, from 2012, was only based on the first 2 seasons. This house was only based on season 3. And it was a much bigger house, built in the Parade Building, much better than what they put in the Disaster Queue the year before. And they were able to do quite a lot more with it. It was actually a much superior house to the first one. In fact, it was quite good. And even though people were fed up because they'd seen The Walking Dead the year before and too many zombies in the streets, nevertheless, it wasn't a bad house at all. I rather liked it. And if you're a fan of the television program, you would really love the house. And a lot of people who weren't so, fed up with the internet shit, on the forums and all that, the general public, the people the event is really for, they loved the house tremendously. Of course, made it a smashing success, which is why it came back again in 2014, 2015, is coming back again next year. Ad infinitum. But that one was not bad, the 2nd Walking Dead house, which was in, as I said, the Parade Building. So, now, because of some of the logistics with the actual parade, you had to go in the back way like you did the year before. And so you took that route, and when you came up, going into the back part of there, they did a bit of a facade on the outside. They recreated the arena, remember, where they had walkers fighting each other for sport in Woodbury, the city, the little town of Woodbury, which is featured so prominent in the 3rd season. And so you enter, and you're in Woodbury, as the facade. Then you have that sort of, they built up, there's some fire there, and there is a zombie on a chain, like they had there. He comes after you, and there's a cage full of zombies right there, cage full of walkers. Some nights it was filled with walkers. Some nights it was practically empty. Originally they meant to have a whole bunch in there. I guess they had some problems with, getting a large number of people in there. you know, people drop out, people get sick. Sometimes they can't have as many cast as they would normally, but sometimes you had quite a few in there. And of course, those zombies in the cage could get out. And so as you're going into the house, some of them came after you. Oh my God, he's loose. But then you go in there and you're actually in Woodbury, and you're in the famous room where they tortured Andrea. And so there you have that sort of doctor chap who was involved with that, and he's become a zombie. And there's the chair that they tortured her in. And as you're going through that room, then of course there's Andrea herself, now a zombie, because they can have the characters once they became zombies, but not before they're humans. I don't know why, but some sort of problem with the licensing with AMC. So you do have Andrea as a zombie. You have that other fellow, I forget his name. He worked for the governor, but he got killed, of course, and became a zombie himself in that room. And you remember when she turned there, that was one of the tragic things that happened at the end of season 3. So you're going through that, and then after that, there's you go into the town of Woodbury itself, and there's all the little storefronts and facades of the town. You have a big truck where they're shooting at walkers. The zombies will lurch out at you if they come into the town for some reason. There is some little inside jokes, tributes to someone who passed away that were put on the signages there. And Merle as a zombie. At first it was Merle as a scare actor. I saw a video from the media preview night. They actually had Merle speaking, but they didn't do that for the actual opening night. They turned him into a zombie. Merle with missing a hand, of course. He's got the blade there. You go into the governor's house. In the governor's house, you can see the big fish tank, and it's all filled with all the zombie head trophies, and they're bobbing about in the water, including Michonne's 2 pets who've been decapitated. So you have that going on, and there's a hairbrush with hair in it from Penny, the zombie doctor of the governor. And you go through the next room. You could go either way, but there's 2 doorways, but they both went through the same area, a sort of creepy little place where Penny is running around. And you know, it's like, I always wanted to make a joke from Big Bang Theory, you know, Penny, 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 but she would get upset when you do that and come after you. I don't know why. But anyway, it was quite fun. Then eventually you make your way to the prison scene. So then you find yourself lots of chain link fences, and there's a crow up on top of it. You get the prison itself, all the big watchtower, the prison guard zombies, all the other zombies in that area. There are quite a lot of zombies. You keep running into them, getting caught in these coverts, but eventually go into the cell blocks themselves. Lots of little inside jokes, references to the show. Someone's legs, you know, I think it's a T-Dog's legs is in there. You go down into the room where Rick's wife died, and her corpse is in the corner after she gave birth to Judith. Her corpse is in the corner. Phone keeps ringing, and if you can actually pick up the phone. You can't pick it up off the rug, but if it's attached. But when you move the phone, move the cradle, the thing, it's an old-fashioned, you know, thing called what do you call that thing? The earpiece. You start trying to pick it up over the loudspeaker. Triggered guest activated thing would be the voice of Rick's wife. I forget her name. Was it Laura? Something like that. Speaking like he kept hallucinating her, calling him on the phone throughout that season. So that happens there. And if you took an unmasking the horror tour, if you were very quick, and the operations people in black with the flashlights didn't stop you and wave you on, you know, because you stop and look at something too much. It's like, hey, move on, move on, move on. Keep going, keep walking. If you got a chance, if you looked at one of the desks in that room, you would see all sorts of paperwork on the desk from the Dharma Project from Lost, of all things. I don't know why that's in there, but it was an inside joke or something. So that was kind of interesting. Then, of course, there's in that very scene, there's a zombie. There's a victim lying on a table, a zombie ripping them open, pulling guts out. Lots of fun there. Lots of little scenes like that, show scenes that are quite nice. Go into the prison blocks ultimately at the end, and you're in the big prison block at the end that got overrun by zombies. You can see different individual cells. Some of them have zombies in them. There's stuff going on above you. There's the bits and pieces of victims lying around. It all looks very real and very powerful. And then you're out of the house, and it's time to scan your card. So it was actually a rather clever house. I rather liked it. and elaborate. It was one of the better. It was certainly better than the previous show's Walking Dead. It really put you into that third season with Woodbury and the prison. And again, there was a cocktail made for The Walking Dead, and let me see if I can find that. Let's see, here it is. And as I said, a sequel to last year's The Walking Dead cocktail, which was a stinger made from Southern Comfort and Rumplemintz. No Safe Haven includes a new ingredient to the mix, Hennessy. So I added the cognac for the governor, because he liked to drink that, to the Southern Comfort and Rumplemintz, making a new stinger, served up straight in a martini glass, as you can see, with it looks like a lemon twist, like so, which would have had that minty flavor. There we go. That was the No Safe Haven cocktail. So that takes care of that, and I have run out of time again. So when I do part 13, I believe, I will move on to the 7th house of the event. We're all done with IP, so we only have 2 remaining houses, both of which were in the Sprung Tents, original houses. The next one we'll talk about will be the house Urban Legends La Sharona. So that comes next time. All right?